Welcome to the Mixology Talk podcast.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Julia, and we're the folks behind abarabove.com, the ultimate resource for craft bartenders, bar operators, and just about anybody else looking to make great craft drinks.
I'm a bar consultant with more than 10 years of industry experience.
And I run abarabove.com, bringing weekly articles and cocktail recipes to help you make great drinks and grow your career behind the bar.
This is episode number 103, and this week we're continuing our interview series of bartenders who have successfully made the leap into entrepreneurship. Today we're talking with Max Messier, co-founder of Cocktail & Sons, about his evolution in the industry, and he offers some great insight into the skills he learned as a bartender that have been instrumental for him as a business owner. So stay tuned. So thanks for joining us. Today we have a guest kind of contributing and interviewing. We're picking up on the bartender entrepreneur segment that we've been doing, and very, very happy to introduce Max Messier. Did I pronounce the last name correctly?
That is correct.
Oh, perfect. All right. Shot in the dark, I was hoping. I have a track record of butchering accents and last names, so I'm glad that one worked out well. So how you doing, man?
I'm good, dude. Good. Enjoying an admin day in the office, so it's pretty nice.
And you're out in New Orleans, right?
Yep, New Orleans, Louisiana.
Nice, man. So do you mind giving us a kind of a brief introduction and who is Max Messier and kind of your company and where you're at now?
Sure. Award-winning bartender who's been in the service industry. That's kind of crazy. I grew up with a father who ran nightclubs in the 80s, and I was 20s. I veered away from that lifestyle for most of my 20s and then came back. I was a .com guy in San Francisco and in New York for about 7 years. And then I veered back into the industry in my late 20s. And not till I was 28 when I first started really doing this as a full-time gig. And I spent 7 years in New York bartending and doing all this crazy shit. And then moved down to New Orleans in 13. I've been here for about 4 years now. Spent about year and a half, 2 of those 4 years opening up 2 places and working along Chris McMillan at Kingfish, and now I oversee the productions with my wife Lauren Myers-Kopp with Cocktail & Sons, which is a line of all natural component syrups, classic cocktails, made within a big initiative. And we are a component syrup. We're not a simple syrup or a RTD style of beverage. We actually represent a component for classic cocktails, including old fashions, Tom Collinses, margaritas, smashes, Southside. And we've been in business since January 15th.
Perfect. All right. So obviously you have a lot of experience in craft cocktails, and sounds like a lot of experience behind bars, given your father's history in owning nightclubs and stuff. So was there a point in your career where you decided, I want to be an entrepreneur and I need to make that jump?
Well, I kind of was brought up with both my mother and father's families. They had their own businesses. So I grew up with that mindset firmly in place. And then as a bartender, you do work for bars and restaurants, but you kind of develop your own brand, so to say, so you're almost working for yourself. And during my time in more in New York than San Francisco, but in New York, I was able to get, a lot of brand jobs, doing events, and kind of built myself as my own, my own brand. And then bartending as well. That was my main gig. But then moving down to New Orleans, that's when, I had been making my own stuff. I was one of the first gen craft cocktail bartenders who had to produce their own stuff behind the bar. So when my wife and I got married, we had a baby on the way 2 months after we got married, and ran into a little bit of an employment issue in New Orleans, and we kind of made a decision to take all the recipes that I had and kind of curate and craft them into components. Because being down here in New Orleans and being in the South, people really enjoy the drink. It's one of the things we do down here really well. But there's not a lot of people that understand. They think mixology is like this Wizard of Oz curtain, that you've got to it's the great and powerful Oz type of stuff. But in actuality, it's very easy. we looked around the market and there was a lot of, there was a lot of mixers, a lot of like pour this old fashioned mix into whiskey and you have an old fashioned. There's a lot of margarita mixes, stuff like that. But we know as bartenders, it's just base spirit, a modifier, and citrus or bitters. That's all cocktails are. So how do we bring it all the way back to where it started and build syrups upon that model? And it's been a crazy ride so far.
Yeah, and you said you've been doing this since 2015?
Yeah. We started in our kitchen making syrups and then selling them to local. We were under a cottage law, which enabled us to kind of slowly build the company through farmers markets and other types of small events. And then we graduated to a commercial kitchen, which has a much larger facility that enabled us to get national distribution, the right to sell outside the state based upon Department of Health and the FDA and all those wonderful things. And then it's just kind of like, we got a couple of distributors last year in Massachusetts, Louisiana, and then the business really took off late last winter when we got distribution in Nevada, Las Vegas, and that's when things started really going crazy.
Oh, nice, man. I'm just writing a bunch of notes here as we were going. It sounds like the growth that you guys have seen in 2 years has been pretty amazing, man.
It really has been. We're kind of overwhelmed at times because we started out in our kitchen, and 2 years later, we're on 75 Ruth Chris Steakhouse menus, pouring a Big Easy Hurricane with our Fashionola syrup, and we're distributed in 8 states now. And you would think there's at some point it would level off, but it just keeps going and going and going. So it's great. It's just a little overwhelming.
Yeah, that's amazing though, man. Just like, I have this idea, this product, I think it'll go really well. Holy cow, hold on. Slow the truck down.
Yeah, and that's sort of what we're doing right now, is that we're kind of circling the wagons and being like, all right, we got to pump the brake. We're doing that right now, but we've kind of got it at a good pace. We're making it happen pretty much.
By hook or by crook, it's going to happen, right?
Yeah, it's like that Thursday night when you're like, all right, cool, I got a bar back and me, we're going okay. Oh shit, we got 50 people in the books? Oh wait, what's going on? Wait, what happened? There's a concert? Oh god. Oh shit, I need to go downstairs and juice more. Oh, what's going on?
Oh man, that's great though. You're in the prime
Who runs it?
time right now and just kind of keep going. Oh man, that's cool. So one of the things that we talked about earlier was kind of this big step you guys have recently taken with going into a chain. Can you kind of give us a little bit about that and how that worked out?
So we were extremely lucky. There's really no other way to put it. We had a friend of mine who runs a consulting company out of Louisville, and he approached me. He said, hey, I wanted to see if you want to take your Fashionola syrup and bring it to Ruth Chris and present it in a hurricane. I was like, cool. We've had a lot of different people come to us with different opportunities throughout the course of the business. And I was like, sounds good. And mind you, the Fashionola is our most labor-intensive syrup. And it was kind of built as we originally constructed it, because it's actually 3 different syrups that are blended together as the final product. So we're actually producing 3 different types of syrup, and those 3 are being then blended. So we looked at it as like our PDT, or like, do it, Canon, or something like that, like a showpiece kind of syrup. And really there's no consideration that would pick us up because of the size of the company as it currently is. And they came back and asked for pricing. I was like, oh, cool. All right, well, here's pricing for it, And then we spent a couple more weeks, months kind of going through the logistics. And they're like, let's do it. I went, okay. And we overnight set up a fulfillment center to drop ship to 60 stores. And the program will run for till next spring. So I'll be making a lot of Fashionola for next year.
So you just have warehouses full of sugar now, right?
Oh, jeez, man. But it's actually a good thing as well, because the flip side of it is that since the Fashionola being such a popular syrup, and we have a large stock of it, we've been able to supply account on a allocation basis, but like a couple accounts in DC, they're going to buy a certain allotment of it. And there's an account in Martha's Vineyard that's going to run with it for the summertime. So it's been like a very cool way for us to expand our current on-premise accounts and expose people to this really awesome syrup that we have. But kind of and also it's been really nice. I mean, because there's like nothing more. It's just such a weird experience, dude. When you go to the kitchen at 6 a.m., you have 100 pounds of pineapple You put on Metallica's Master Puppets and just break down pineapple. That's all you do in this this empty kitchen, just by yourself until your team gets there. You're just breaking down pineapples.
That sounds pretty amazing, actually. Like the idea of having an entire...
Yeah, it's kind of a nice meditation.
Yeah, like I remember just fighting for a burner in the back, you know, trying to muscle my way into 300-pound prep cooks while they're looking at me like, you don't know what you're doing in this kitchen. And being able to have your own space and just kind of knocking syrup out, man, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's funny because my wife, when she's in the kitchen, she talks to people and she engages our team and stuff like that. I don't say anything. I just cook. I just cook. That's all I do. Or I say, get me that, or take this, or clean this. Cool. You guys good? All right.
Everyone's like, Max is so business all the time, man. He needs to relax.
Deadlines, man. I'm making 60 gallons of fashionola. I got to talk to you. Do it.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's cool. Well, definitely congratulations on the success of that, man. That's cool.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been fun. But we've always been very aware of how lucky we are. Just really are. That's one thing we never overlook.
It's always my thought that, you know, hard work creates its own luck too. You know, if you're not prepared to take advantage of the opportunities that drop in your lap, then it's not really luck. You know, it's kind of a missed opportunity at that point. So definitely congratulations and hope for more luck down the road. As long as you can handle it. We need that
luck to happen in 2018. Not right now, okay? We're good on luck right now, okay? We just need to pull it back a little bit and we'll roll hard in 18. Right now, I'm cool, bro.
Yeah, you're all tapped out on luck. You're good. So one of the questions that I always like, or I'm always interested in as far as the evolution of the bartender to the entrepreneur is, you know, what are some of the skills that you developed as a bartender that were absolutely instrumental to the business that you own now? I know this is the model that you have and kind of the growth that you see is a pretty natural or a pretty amazing progression. And it sounds like the skill sets are pull it out of bartending, drop it into business owner with adding a couple other tools into the tool belt. But is there anything in particular that you developed as a bartender that's been instrumental for you?
Well, I mean, all the syrups we have were kind of born from a recipe book that I still have that I kept notes in for years. Kind of went through that book and looked at all the recipes. I had this thing that I did at one restaurant in New Orleans. It was insane. It was called This Might Work. It was based upon a guy named Max Messier out of New York. He's one of the best bartenders, period, that I've ever sat in front of. And Max had this thing called something like this. What he would do is he used to run accounting room, and Max was down in New Orleans here. He had a day job where he was in finance or property management, something like that. And him and Al Sotak just opened up Jupiter Disco in Brooklyn recently. But Max had this thing where every Monday for like $5 in the basement accounting room, he tries weird shit he came up with. So I kind of took that idea at one place and it's called This Might Work. And every Tuesday, I would produce a 5-piece cocktail menu every week based upon wherever the chef would bring in and just got really creative. I did a lot of research in cocktail history and where like Cocktail and Sons, the actual name of it, comes from the fact is that there's only 4 to 6 kind of debatable original cocktails. And everything we're enjoying right now is the sons and daughters of those cocktails, of those styles. Like sours, toddies, julep smashes. They're all offshoots, everything we're doing. Now, I kind of doubt a Vegas bomb or a New Orleans red snapper falls in those categories. So, as a bartender, the education and the engineering, like just trying weird shit out. Does this work? Does that work? And also understanding what people drink. Understanding how to communicate something that is very alien to a person sitting in front of you. Like, what is Tavia Rock? What is Fernet? What is Galliano? Having the language, and then get them comfortable and have them more of a drink. But I come from a different pedigree because I spent most of my 20s in the .com field in marketing and PR. So that added bonus. I learned how to do graphic design when I was in that world. Most of our graphic design, if not all of it, I also learned web design, development, and information architecture of a website. So with bartending is extremely important because I learned how to communicate, not just sit in front of a computer and press buttons. And you're a salesperson. Bartender, you spend years as a salesperson. And that's how you get your check average up. That's how you have people sit in front of you week after week. That's how you develop brand loyalty and brand advocacy. And I also talk about, as a bartender, I was able to utilize my social capital. I love that term, social capital. It speaks of your Facebook friends, your network, who can vouch for you. You can reach out to somebody and say, I need help with this. And this is a very tight community, and you gotta abide by those society rules of our industry and keep your social capital in a positive. You have to learn as a bartender about everything. The tools you use, the glassware you have, the ice that you're using, type of how long juice lasts, how to make a syrup, all these are things that are very important to bartenders. Really important. And if you let one of those fall by, your drinks are going to suck. That's kind of what it is.
Yeah, well, and it affects everything we talked about with, people understanding that you go see Max because he can make you a great cocktail. He's a great entertainer. He'll take care of you. And all those things, if one of those pieces falls to the wayside, all of a sudden you don't have that credibility anymore and you may lose a couple of regulars. And I think the interesting thing for me, and I've interviewed a couple of people that kind of mentioned this before, is when you're tending bar, you really have to think about your shifts as a business. How can you maximize your profits? How can you turn your bar faster? How can you knock out 10% more drinks in a given night if you're that busy? And really start to make those calculations so that way you make more money at the end of the day. I think there's a lot of business fundamentals built into bartending that we just kind of take for granted.
Yeah, and that's something that we kind of don't talk about, the dark side of bartending, but you got to kind of get your head up all the time and understand that you got to avoid burnout. You got to avoid when you're in a not as very good place, the place you work or the event you're doing or all those things. It's hard. It's a hard job. It really is.
No, it really is. I know I've done it a couple times where I just got fed up and, needed to focus on something. And this is something that I may have meant, I think you and I talked about this earlier before we started the podcast, of we get emails constantly of people that are, bartenders at 15, 20 years of experience behind the bar, and they just, I don't know where to go next. I'm kind of done bartending. I'm getting married. I have kids. I'm just getting too old to be behind the bar, and I want to take that next step. But being a bar manager kind of sucks. I don't want to own my own spot, and I don't want to work for a brand. That's kind of the natural progression for a lot of craft bartenders is bartender, get lead bartender, do competitions, and then become a brand ambassador. A lot of people that reach out to us is like, what else can I do? And I think that's one of the things that really caught my attention on this series is there's a possibility of people making their own way if they have other people to look at in the business, in our business, in our community, and say, okay, what do they do? How do they do that? And take their own entrepreneurial drive and kind of take those steps on their own.
First thing I have to say is don't start a business and have a kid. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't start a business and have 3 months later have a kid. Crazy talk.
Who would do such a thing, man? But the story you get to tell is pretty amazing. When that kid grows up, you'll be like, oh man, you have no idea.
You have no idea how much I suffered for you.
No, it's pretty cool to see just the next level. Craft industry kind of being able to almost support itself now and have some really great products on the market like yours, and being able to build a healthier ecosystem within our community, I think is something I would love to see more of. And it's inspiring to see people like you, taking their craft to the next level.
I appreciate that. It's very difficult though, because when you speak of, I've been doing this for 10, 15 years, what do I do now? That's the situation. This is where you got to fall back upon your social capital. Figure out, do I start my own consulting business? Do I have enough? I'm not going to name names, but there's a certain point where you have to figure out. Because we get old. Bartending's a young person's game. I'm 41. Like people like Chris McMillan, who's in his mid-50s, he does it every night. He's amazing.
Which is just amazing.
I know that. But Chris is, it's hard. Like, there's some people that can just do it, but it's a difficult transition. I know what it's like because I'm a recovering bartender because this is the life that this is what we know. This is the comfort zone. I find that we had this very adventurous concept that I want to hire bartenders to work for me in the kitchen because this is what they do. They create stuff and this is going to be awesome. And you quickly realize that you're missing one major component of what bartenders have. And that is, social engagement, other people, customers, team, things of that nature. And, brand jobs can be awesome. Brand jobs can be very very challenging. Sort of like, how do you leverage 10 years you spent in this industry and try to transition to something else? I do know that a lot of brands right now are kind of in this influx. They almost want to hire older people that have had some experience under their belts, and they're not trying to just grab their expenses. So I wish I had a golden answer for you, but it's like, you got to ask yourself after 10 years, what do I want to do? Because everything has its pros and cons. Great being a consultant, you got to find the gig. You got to run programs. That has its own level of frustrating. So you got to think about, I've been doing this for 10 years. What the hell do I do now?
Yeah, and I think, you kind of touched on some topics here that I think we don't realize is, we're building a pretty amazing skill set the longer we're in this business, with the marketing aspect of it, the sales language that you talked about. And I think that anybody that's entrepreneurial minded that's behind the bar can definitely capitalize on some of those skill sets for sure. So that being said, one of the things, kind of the segue into this topic, is there any advice that you would have for bartenders that are entrepreneurial minded and quite haven't figured out their own direction? I know you kind of said, you touched upon this as just kind of figure it out. But is there anything they could be doing now to start to build success, own their own business down the road?
Bartending, so you just can't be mental, be physical. That's a very important. You meet people all the time. You're interacting with people from the spirits world and other bar owners, all that stuff. Okay? Try to find something that puts you on a salary. Maybe do it part time to start out, just to get your legs on. Okay? Because brand jobs are very, there's a lot of really awesome companies out there just trying to find your niche. What you really do. Another thing too is kind of like ask yourself. You always have the option to reinvent. There's always the option to retire and do something you actually wanted to do. Because sometimes, after 10 years of bartending, you kind of realize that you're really good at this, but you don't really like it. That kind of happens. Where you're sort of like I've got friends of mine that bartended for over 10 years. Now they're doing graphic design work, or they're teaching, or they're doing something outside the industry. They're applying skills that they picked up as a bartender with those new industries. But, you got to take care of them. Wife and kids and all that stuff. So, a lot of self-evaluation. Try to translate, or just try to translate programming or whatever you've been doing and talk to people. That's all about network. Kind of what I would suggest.
Yeah, build your network. To kind of piggyback on that idea, there are certain skill sets that a brand job are going to be able to teach you that you're not going to learn as a bartender, in my opinion. Like the ability to professionally communicate through emails and manage your own calendar and like have a strategic mind about you is a skill set I think that brand work can definitely teach you. And plus, the hours are a little bit better and the pay's typically a little bit better, and you get to hang out sometimes and see your friends in their bars and stuff. So there's definitely some benefits to working brand jobs.
Yeah, I have no regrets about all the brand jobs I worked for, the positions I held as a salary or just as an event person. Because I'm always learning. I'm always figuring it out. And take nothing personal. Sometimes things just happen. Nobody's out there. Hardly anybody's trying to be malicious towards you. It rarely happens. There are certain cases these days, but in general, keep your nose clean. You're okay.
It's true. Yeah. And for the most part, everyone is not gunning to put somebody else down for the most part. But yeah, I'm sure there are always exceptions to that rule. So any big surprises that happened for you as an entrepreneur? I know for me, you kind of already touched on one, but as a bartender that made my way into entrepreneurship, not having that customer interaction, it really was hard to get used to, not having that kind of social engagement on a minute by minute basis or an hourly basis. And it's one of the hardest things for me to kind of deal with is moving into a more entrepreneurial environment. Are there any surprises for you that kind of happened along the way?
I kind of learned how to be, it's kind of funny because I always thought I had this, but how to be more self-sufficient. How to really have some patience and fortitude. Look at the long game and up. Bartender, you're always expecting to get paid every night. That's what it is. Bartender, you're expecting to walk out the door with $400 in your pocket. Business, a lot of patience, which I've had to develop. I've also been surprised by how there's a great degree of explaining to people what we do and, communicate that properly with them, than to have them go, oh, this is cool, and then when you think it's all going to fall down, or when you think it's all just going to burn around, something happens and it turns it all around. This is never going to work. It's working. What happened? What happened?
Yeah. And you try to figure it out. You're like, what the hell just happened?
Wait over here.
Oh my God.
It's working? Oh, this is weird, dude.
No, I totally get that. That's so funny. So one other question, one of the things that I know is kind of on our end and what we do is I never thought I'd work as hard as I did. And I always thought, tending bar is difficult and you busting your butt for 8 to 10 hours, 12 hours, 15 hours a day. That's difficult. But I've never worked so hard in my life until I opened my own business. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, if I sit for a half an hour just drinking a cup of coffee and just like watching something on television when I'm at home and nobody's here, just quiet.
And like that moment of zen before, that first customer walks up to the bar. You're just
exactly. You're like your station's all set up and you're going to have a busy night. And you're like, your first seating's at 6:30 and at 6 o'clock and then one person walks in. You're like, hey, how you doing? I work all the time. I have to stop myself from not working or from trying to do something.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's like there's always an opportunity to work as an entrepreneur. And that's the thing. One of the biggest surprises for me is just like you could literally be doing something every waking moment of the day and throw a kid into that mix. And my God, I've never been more productive in my entire life.
Yeah, I had somebody in that seminar say, how do you do it? I'm like, I just do it. They're like, so are you just like a super person? I'm like, no. I think it's funny. Like, I used to be really concerned about things like clothing and like showering, stuff like that. That's cool. I'm good. It's like, oh yeah. My wife's like, you've worn that shirt 3 days in a row. I'm like, oh, I have. Okay. Well, I haven't had to go anywhere, so it's cool.
My wife had the same conversation with me yesterday.
Like, I haven't needed to go out of the house. Is this cool? I'm fine. I have to do admin work. I'm not going, I go to the kitchen, I come home, I this and that,
No, it's too funny, man. Too funny. So, I've been able to have this conversation with you for a very long time, and I definitely appreciate it. I know you're a super busy man, so I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I just got to say thank you for spending your time.
You're welcome.
So, as you definitely heard, we were facing some technology issues during our phone call, but I definitely wanted to wrap up and say thank you to Max Messier for the time in the interview, as well as kind of give you a heads up on some of the last minute questions I asked him. Basically, where can people reach out to you? He said at Cocktails and Sons, pretty much on all social media platforms. And if you wanted to check out his products that are being sold in your area, definitely go to his website, store.cocktailsandsons.com. And you can also check out the Ruth Chris Steakhouse program to try to see some products there. He will also be speaking at the Craft Spirits Expo in Reno. And get ready for his Louisiana watermelon and Thai basil syrup that he's releasing during the summer. So all those sound like a lot of fun, and hopefully you enjoyed this interview. We'll have some more to come, and cheers, everyone.
Never miss an episode by subscribing in iTunes or YouTube. And as always, check out the show notes by clicking on the right.